Hi, Luca, and welcome back to our Career Beat Talks podcast. Today, we will be having an interview session with you, Luca, where I will be asking you about your key learnings when it comes to active sourcing in 2024. So, we will be talking about tools you've used, the market, what you've learned, how you filled successfully positions, and what you're looking for in 2025. Hi, this is Laura, and you're listening to the Career Beat Talks podcast, where we share all the newest insights on the recruiting world from both sides, the candidate perspective and the company perspective. Let's jump right in. Luca, how are you doing? How was your start into the new year?
Yeah, very good. Had a couple of days to take some rest. So now I'm happy to get started again and looking forward to have a lot of conversations with candidates and also with companies. Of course, seems like everyone is excited about the new year. So there's currently a lot of things happening.
Oh, yeah, right. It's not like we had an easy start to the year. We have been working hard already, but I'm so excited for this year as well. Well, Luca, if it's okay with you, I would say I prepared four questions actually, but I will start with I think the easiest one so we can get into this whole conversation. And for that, I actually want you to jump back into 2024. So, when looking at the sourcing strategies that you were using, which one had the biggest impact to really attract top talents, especially, in the competitive markets that we work in, which is Germany and the US?
Yeah, very good question. I think especially us having some roots in the German market, which is a very tough market to recruit for, right? You really learn candidate focus, and I think that has been my biggest learning. I mean, I always talk about how this is important, right? Even before, but I think 2024 showed this even more. Like, if you want to do recruiting, if you want to do sourcing, like we do, which means like really actively contacting candidates about jobs that they never apply to, right? Then I think you really need to put yourself into the shoes of the candidate. And if you reach out, don't write any mass email. Don't fall in the trap of, I can automate everything and just send the same message to everyone. You're not going to get the responses that you want. Instead, what we really successfully did last year is like taking the time, writing individualized messages to candidates and always putting yourself in their shoes. What type of information do they want? For example, I know some other recruiting companies, they never share the name of the company where the person would work in their first email. The reason being that, they fear that the candidate would go behind their back and apply without them even
Mm.
knowing. And like we tested this, and I did not see any difference. I never heard, maybe I don't know, but I never heard that anyone would go behind my back. If you share all the information up front, you say, hey, this is the company, this is what you would expect to working on. I think this is a great fit for you as a next step in your career because based on my market research, I think you could earn more, you could develop into a leadership position, whatever. Then suddenly you will get a lot of candidates also responding to you. So I think, really that's the secret sauce, so to say.
Yeah, I love that. And I think this is also one of the feedback we received a lot from candidates when looking at last year, when we analyzed a little bit the data and all the reviews we got. And it was really like this personal approach, like this caring for the person behind, in this case, of course, the candidate behind the position, and that can really make you stand out, and it's becoming even more important in the years to come. So really focusing on why and how can I convince this person to join my company, going from that
Yeah.
perspective. I love that.
Yeah. And also saying, like, when you have a conversation and then you realize during the conversation, you know what, I actually don't think that's a good job opportunity for you, right? We talked for maybe 20 minutes and you told me, hey, this is where you see yourself in the future. And I realized as a recruiter that actually the company cannot provide that to you
Mm.
because they just have a little bit of a different structure or are in a different phase of their growth cycle or whatever. And then being so upfront and honest and saying, hey, you know what? Actually, for this company, I don't think it's the right fit. Maybe the salary me would be good, but I don't want to have us having a conversation in 6 months again about you again looking for a new job, right? And really being upfront and say, hey, no, I don't think this works out. Let's rather try to find some other opportunity for you in the market. Yeah, I think that's also just as you said, that's the same type of thought, but it always starts with the empathy for the candidate side, because in this market, like they are really the driving force. And it is also true in the US. Even if we see in the US it's a little bit more still of an employer's market, but this is mainly in tech. And again, if you are not in San Francisco and hiring tech engineers, like even there are some more rural companies, they have to fight for their talents as well. And we got some really, really good feedback also by some US candidates about this openness, which they are not used to from other American recruiters.
Yeah. And on the other hand, what we also have to mention here is having these conversations with candidates is also what allows us to consult companies later on when they are like, I'm looking for this type of talent. We can tell them what these talents are looking for, what expectations they have, what they care about, because we did have these conversations before. That is why it's so important to take the time to do this job right. I think this is important on so many levels. But I'll jump to my next question, Luca, because we do have so much to cover. I think another important question to look at is really the rise of AI and all the automation tools that have been implemented in the last year, but also some previous years. How have you balanced the technology part of it with then the personal touch, which is really required in our job?
Yeah, very good question. I briefly thought about should I use like technology in my first answer, but I would rather have it here because I think like we should not fall into the trap of now using, hey, we can automate so much stuff, and now there's even talk of AI agents, so even more than just an AI that gives you text based, but that can really do processes for you step by step after one each other.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think, again, I would rather maybe automate, or my approach is I want to automate other things of my work that take time and then have the time for the candidate conversation and also for the company conversation. Because I don't think you can automate those. Yet, maybe in the future. I don't want to do it, and I don't think it's so easy to do. And for example, I would rather have, or we also do this, for example, when sometimes I write an email to someone explaining something, right? And I realize, oh, typing this email takes me a long time. Then maybe part of the email I can use and ask ChatGPT, hey, can you help me? I want to get this point across somehow. I don't feel like it works. Can you help me rewrite this email? Or it can also help, or it helped me last year definitely with generating of ideas or new approaches. For example, I was recruiting for one very specific sales job, and we wanted to have the person have sales experience with a certain type of product.
Mhm.
And now ChatGPT, for example, helped me find companies that sell this type of product, which otherwise would have taken me a lot of time to
Right.
research on my own, right? And then I could take this information, okay, these are the type of companies I'm targeting where people might work and might be interested in a career switch. Now I can write to them, right? So yeah, this kind of like work that is before my outreach, like that's what I usually like to automate and save some time, and then I can reinvest the time into having the candidate conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think these are some really cool examples of how you can use technology to make your life easier, to support your job, not to replace your job. But talking about another technology that I've seen happening in many ATS as well is, sometimes people apply and then the tool tells you the matching potential, or I don't even know how it's called, but it kind of tells you like, oh, this could be a good candidate for your job. Have you used that part as well of AI?
Not yet. So LinkedIn has a feature like this, not when they apply, but when you score like the profits where it recommends some profits. And so far, I never felt like that I have the right candidate in front of me after following the recommendation.
Right.
Um, but this might also have to do with the type of profiles we are usually recruiting, right? Very specialized, and you really need to dig deep into the resume to understand does it fit. And sometimes it's just one word in a resume that decides, hey, this person is a fit or not. And I feel like it would be easier maybe in jobs where it's always the same. For example, we have something like a manufacturing engineer. Usually the job is kind of like the same, right? What you do, it's very clear. Manufacturing engineer usually does this and this and this. And then it's maybe also easier for some tools like this. Whereas an example for sales, I always have the feeling, yeah, sales is sales, but what type of product did the person sell, right? That's not so easy to see. And then the companies always want someone who has experience with similar products so that the training period is shorter when they go with a headhunting agency like us. So yeah, maybe it depends also on the profiles a little bit.
Yeah, and I think this is important. Like, you cannot generalize the use of specific technologies for all positions. So always be aware of what type of positions am I looking for, and then what type of technology can support me with that specific job. And I think this was a great example. Thank you for sharing, Luca. Let's move on to my next question. Which is if you can share some examples of, a difficult to fill position that we had in 2024, and really tell us as specific as possible how you sourced the person, from finding them to going in touch with them to also contacting or being in contact with the company, just so that we can really explore how it would be to work with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for this example, I think we can use the engineering position we had in the US this last year. So it was similar to what I just talked about, kind of like a mix between one position was more in engineering, the other maybe more in sales a little bit. And so what we do, or what we did in this case, but that's how we usually do it because the best way is, first of all, we want to have a deep conversation with the company that is hiring, right? Whether that is someone from HR, or rather, even I have some of the direct hiring manager, so the manager that this person will work in their team, and we talk for maybe 30 minutes about, okay, this is exactly what you need. This is your company culture. This is how the position was filled so far, or is it a newly created position? Why did a person leave? What type of person usually thrives in your company, and where maybe did you have some issues in the past? And then also diving into the job a little bit. What are the must-haves that you really have? What maybe is optional? Should we only look into local talent, or can we also expand the search a little bit and relocate maybe someone that is interesting? So that's usually the first part. So really doing a very deep analysis and understanding what type of profile the company really needs, because we don't want to be the company that just sends out candidates, right, that don't fit. Like, that's super annoying. I was working internally in HR before, and I know these emails that you get whenever you open a position and you post it online, and then some agencies just send you some resumes that don't even fit, right? That's what we want to avoid. So I think, yeah, this is where we spend most of our time on the company side. It's really aligning the expectations and understanding and building trust. And then the second part is then going on, mainly for this position was mainly LinkedIn, with our LinkedIn recruiter subscription. That we have, like, we get access to basically LinkedIn's backend, so we can see all the details of over 500 million profiles. And also on Indeed, we also have a similar subscription. I really like this. This was maybe also something I learned, like Indeed can be very, very good for your sourcing needs. And then, yeah, we're trying to identify, okay, who is interested at this point in time? For whom could this be the next step? Drafting a very detailed a message for that person, exciting them about the role, then talking with them over. And then, yeah, when both sides are interested, of course, scheduling the interviews. And yeah, that's usually our recipe for success. And I think, what did we say, Laura? About 28 times, I think, last year alone. So yeah, you can really see that it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say is more difficult, the part of talking with the company or the part of talking with the talents?
Very good question. I would not say like one is easier than the other. I feel like maybe the more important one is actually the company call, because if that does not go well and I don't understand what they need, then I can also not to talk to my candidates, right? So in that sense, like, that's the one we always have to get right. And if a company doesn't have the time for us, to spend 30 minutes discussing like what exactly they need, then I can already tell. Then usually later on, the interview process is not going to go well, and it's not going to be successful for anyone involved. So both are like maybe the same level of difficulty, but the company call is the one we usually need to get right first, and then the rest will kind of like take care of itself with our experience.
Yeah, and I think that was also one learning for me personally. If I go back to the question one, that through these calls with the companies, sometimes you realize that companies are not 100% sure what they want yet. Like they have this ideal candidate in mind, but this ideal candidate doesn't exist. It's
Yeah.
because they want everything in one person, and then through these calls, you can also help them clarify what they should be focusing on or looking for. And I think that's also really nice about working with a recruiting agency, someone from outside who has a different perspective, who's of course not that involved in your business, but then can also help you drive, your talent search in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's also not even trying to fault anyone here, but sometimes I also don't know
Right.
what I want until someone asks me questions, or it can also be something. I remember one in conversation like this in the US we had, and the company used an internal job title. And quickly realized, no, actually on the market, this is what people call themselves,
Right.
right? But it's the same thing you want. It's just a different title. For some reason, internally you call it X, but for some reason the market calls it Y. Is that the same thing? Yes. Okay, perfect. Then we know where to look, right? And
Right.
sometimes you just don't notice this stuff as this company. So yeah, these 30 minutes, we try to keep it brief, but it's usually time well spent also for the company side. And later on, they definitely benefit because you can just see the success rate and also the quality of profiles they get just in increases by maybe 3 to 5 times.
Absolutely. Well, let's come to our last question for today. If we look now into 2025, I mean, we just started this year, but what trends or sourcing tactics do you think are going to really shape recruitment this year?
hmm I have two answers, maybe. So the first one is with the automation. I'm looking forward what is going to happen. So LinkedIn just rolled out. They just sent us an update email before Christmas. I think that they have reworked their this matching tool that I mentioned earlier, and also I think they said they now have like a, maybe it's via ChatGPT, I don't know, some integration that helps you write individualized messages based on the profile of the candidate. So this is something I want to try and experiment a little bit with. Again, as I said, I'm a bit more skeptical. I would rather write it on my own, but hey, maybe it can help generating some ideas for some
Hmm.
messages. So that's on the one thing. And then the other thing for us is a company focused on the German and the American market. I'm really curious to see the differences in the economic outlook for those countries. So I think Germany is probably going to have its toughest year yet with 2024 for at least like the last post-pandemic year. And we have elections in February, so that's very interesting to see what will happen. Whereas in the US, you already had these elections. Now everyone is at least expecting like an uptick in the economy and also the hiring. Let's see if that will actually happen. But yeah, it seems like the countries are at this point in time at least at different stages of the economic cycle. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what does it mean for differences. So far, our German customers are all still hiring. But of course, you always read the stories about more and more companies doing layoffs. So yeah, let's see how that develops. But I think it's definitely a very interesting feature of the German market. Is like companies are downsizing and laying off people, but at the same time, like they have all these open jobs, which is it's just very, very interesting phenomenon.
Right. You still do need some good people to bring the company forward in
Yeah,
specific
yeah.
areas, and then other areas where you've maybe hired too many when times were really good. But yeah, let's see what this year brings really to both economies and the other economies, of course, as well. I think one trend that I do want to mention, which I saw last year, and I do think this year is going to be very interesting for people, is using more social media for the recruiting, because of course more and more of the new generations are entering the workforce, and if you also want to get to them, it's very important that you have a presence in the social media, and you know how to use it to attract talents. And not only, young people, we've recruited also, people in all career phases through social media. And what we have done, for example, last year was working together with some companies to create content for them, as we do have a huge follower base, to attract them to the jobs of specific companies. And this can be like very interesting strategies that you work together with, career influencers, or however you want to call them. I don't even know the right name for that. But not only that you also use social media of your own company to attract people. So I think being very active online, given how technology is advancing, will also be essential to attract, the new
Yeah.
workforce as well.
I think I'd like to call it jobfluencer. So I
Oh
really
yeah,
don't.
that's a great name. I love that one. Let's use that one from now on. I was
Perfect.
super confused what to say. Yeah, yeah. No, thank you so much, Luca. Anything you still want to add, or did you say all you needed to say?
No, I think yeah, it's all good. So we're really excited for the next year. If you're listening to this as a manager or as an HR responsible, or also as a candidate, of course, feel free to reach out. Yeah, looking forward to working on a lot of engineering and sales roles, both in Germany and the US.
Yeah, so we're gonna leave all the contact information in the show notes. Always feel free to reach out. And Luca, I'm looking forward to this year. Let's rock it. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you are a company who's currently looking to expand their team with amazing talent, make sure to check out our website, careerbeat.io, to learn more about our recruiting services and how we can help you find the best candidate for your open roles. On the other side, if you are a candidate who's currently looking to find a job in the US or Germany, make sure to explore our website, careerbeat.io/talents, to see how our masterclass and our additional career services can get you to find your dream job. In any case, you can always reach out to our team via the email team@careerbeat.io. We are so happy to continue sharing many more insights around recruiting and job searching.